Hello, welcome to Undisputed Boxing. We're here to discuss final thoughts. Fury Wilder 3, the Fury Wilder circus is in town and fully underway. Weigh-in is later today. So just wanted to catch up, do a quick sort of final thoughts, see if our predictions kind of swayed one way or the other, probably not. Yeah, obviously quite a bit to talk about. Just a quick reminder, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe, leave a comment. I'm here with Rick, taking a 30-minute break from work. How's it going?
I'm off today.
Are you?
All right. Yeah.
It's all right for some. I'm grafted. Okay, cool. So yeah, what did you have you managed to see a lot of the press conference from yesterday?
I've not seen it from start to finish, but I've seen a fair bit of it, and seen a bit of Aaron being quite entertaining, which no doubt we'll touch on. So yeah, I mean, I think we've both gone points for Fury. I've obviously said that, you know, if the fight had happened straight after, I'd have gone 80-20 to Fury, and that's shrunk now just because of time and the conditioning that, you know, Fury could be in. So someone made a good point, actually. I think it was Fury's brother. It might even been Fury, actually. And again, it's obviously a bit biased towards Fury, but he's just said, I'm actually used to long layoffs. Wilder's never had this kind of layoff. So is that an advantage? I don't know. I hadn't really thought of that. Don't make a big thing out of it, I suppose, but I hadn't really come at that angle where they've both had the layoff, and we say that the layoff is probably worse for Fury, but then he's right. Wilder's never had this kind of layoff. So that's an interesting thing. It's not changed my opinion, but yeah, has anything happened, or have you reflected on anything that's changed?
Not really. I still kind of stand by. I think it will be closer than the second fight. I think Fury's going to have to come through some difficult times in the fight periods in the fight. I expect it to be still quite cagey for the first couple of rounds, but I think Fury will just find his range and will just start tagging and picking him off. Wilder is going to have to kind of go for it. He's going to have to do something pretty special. So it will be interesting to see what kind of game plan they can come up with.
Because in our prediction, we didn't get too technical into things. I mean, it's like there's two schools of thought really of what Wilder's going to do. He's going to come out absolutely flying, and if he has to eat some jabs, he eats some jabs. Or he's somehow learnt or improved to box on the back foot. Assuming that Fury will do the same, and therefore he's got a better back foot game, which I know he's had a lot of time, but I don't think you can develop a good enough back foot game in a year. Yeah.
Well, so you can see that, like in the pad work that Malik Scott has been doing with him, he's jabbing and he's doing his pad, a lot of combinations, but walking back. So, you know, boxing off the back foot. I mean, that's something that's going to take, you know, a long time to kind of develop. I just don't think he's got the time to do that. But, you know, I mean, who knows? I mean, he kind of surprised everybody when he outboxed Bermane Stiverne when he won the WBC title. Like, nobody thought that he could really kind of box. Yeah, I just can't see it. And even if he has kind of developed some kind of Fury's got, you know, gear 3, gear 4, gear 5 that he can find where he can. It's just very difficult to prepare for him, isn't it? You know, that sort of irky jerky style and moving left and right, and Fury just has so much more to his game, I think.
Just sort of interesting stat that in the second fight, for the first 2 rounds, they were pretty even for jabs landed. It's just that Fury's jabs had more weight behind them, and they were pushing him back. Where Wilder's were a bit more tentative flicking, but they were hitting, but just like, you know, and that's it. Sometimes it's that jab. You can be landing, but it's like what Joshua didn't do. It was like flicking, but it never pushed Usyk back enough.
Well, his punch output was up until the respective rounds. His punch output was a lot lower for the first fight. And if you remember the first fight, he was just outboxing him. Like, Wilder was just never really kind of in the fight. You could maybe give him 2 or 3 rounds, obviously including the round that he knocked him down in. The last round, you could argue that, you know, Tyson came back and won the rest of that round, and so it was kind of a draw. but his punch output was actually a lot higher in the second fight, which tells me he was much better conditioned as well. Like the 2 fights that he had leading up to the Wilder fight were in no way, good preparation for Deontay Wilder, but he still had enough to kind of win, even though it was a draw. I mean, most would agree that he did win.
It's interesting because if he plays the back foot game, it's then probably playing more into our hands of points win. Because I do, like you, I think he will come in lighter. I don't think he'll gas as quickly. He'll have trained a lot more for mobility, even though he's not naturally got great feet and stuff. This training will get him better.
Yeah.
And therefore it could be, Fury coming forward, landing, but then not quite doing enough damage, and Wilder being just clever enough to get away, where it's a slow beat down, but it's points.
Yeah.
But whether Wilder does that for a couple of rounds and then goes, right, I'm launching. Do you know what I mean? That'd be the interesting thing. And maybe that's the tactic, almost lull for 3 or 4 rounds Fury into a kind of, right, I'm just going to outbox him. And then suddenly, halfway through a round, just go, right, throw several bombs. But he only has like 1 or 2 bombs, and then he gets scrappy, doesn't he? And I think that's when Fury will just go, right, well, I'll just do this and maneuver away. And then after that, the surprise is over, and Fury is that good on the back foot himself. He'll just maneuver. So that surprise will only work for a period of time.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see what Fury weighs in at. What do you think he's going to be coming in at? I think he usually comes in around about the 270 mark, doesn't he?
273 for the last fight, which people thought might be too big. There's rumours of him getting close to 300. I wouldn't like to see him breach 280. I think he can get 273. He looked really, he did look good. He looked like he could carry on. I mean, we never got into the later rounds, but he looked like he could carry on. He's got a great engine on him. But I think anything over the 2.7 mark, I'm like, is that too far? Yeah. He doesn't need. I mean, if Wilder comes in lighter, which he probably will, then there's less need for Fury to be heavy.
Yeah.
But I can't. It doesn't look like he's 273. I just hope he's not, over 280. I think the 280 mark is the point where it becomes detrimental.
Yeah. What do you think this does on going back to the actual event? Like, what do you think it does on pay-per-view? Because it's a great. I mean, we've talked about this before, but it is a great card as well. I'm going to be watching the whole thing.
Yeah, I think it's a great card for us. I'm not sure it's a great card for mainstream fans. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to get I imagine ring walk's about 4:30, so I'm going to look to be in front of a TV by 3, hopefully to get those two fights. If a Jagba is on, I'm assuming it'll go a Jagba then Helenius fight, and then
Helenius Karanaki is chief support.
Yeah, so I definitely want to see that, and I hope I get the other one. If not, I might turn it back a little bit and then watch that and then catch up. I don't know what do we know the numbers of the other 2 fights?
The first one didn't do particularly well, but then the second one did well actually. Let me quickly have a quick look, because
if they do well, it depends what they might need to get up to like 1 million to wash the face. So it depends what.
I think they will need to get up to that number to wash their face, because obviously it's very well known. Their the purse is obviously quite big, isn't it, for both of them?
Yeah, I don't know what the guarantees are and that. It's been a bit. I've heard different things. But
so the first one was 325,000 buys, and then the second one was 1.2 mil, which is decent.
Yeah,
that's in the US, obviously.
It's hard to know because there's been a lack of boxing, hasn't there?
Yeah, I think there's a few things that are playing in their favour. The fact that there's a lot of time that's dragged between the last fight, so it's almost like people have forgotten it and they just see it as a good fight. The second factor is that there has been a lot of big fights that have fallen through, and we've just been kind of starved of that kind of mega event.
Yeah, I think if it did 1.2 last time, if it had happened 3-4 months later, it'd probably been down to like the 700-800s. But I think it's got a fair chance of hitting the million mark.
Yeah.
Now, it depends how well it's promoted, because last time it was quite well promoted, where they had some of the legends there and stuff. And weirdly, actually, I was walking back from a meal last night with some people from work, and they're not real boxing fans. And someone said, "Oh, there's a big fight on this weekend, isn't there?" And they just said, "Oh, you watching it, Rick?" I said, "Yeah, of course I am." So, it's Fury, isn't it? So when I hear things like that, it's got out there.
Yeah,
and actually, it's on BBC News a lot. There's a lot of things on it.
Yeah.
And Sky are talking about it, obviously. So, and I know that's just here, but yeah, I imagine it could get to a million. I don't think it will eclipse what the last one did.
No.
Be surprised. Have you've not managed to see much of the press conference, have you?
Saw a bit of it, yeah. Tyson Fury is obviously doing his thing, and Wilder I've seen is a little bit more vocal. I think they kind of need him to be, to kind of try and sell the fight a little bit. I think him just giving the pressed silent treatment isn't selling the fight, and I think they were heavily criticised for that last time. So he's naturally become a little bit more vocal and biting back.
Yeah,
he seems pretty composed.
Fury's just like, yeah, I mean, Fury's the one stood up and being animated.
Yeah.
And Wilder is actually quite chilled for him. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. But he does come out with some weird things, like you don't hit hard, and I couldn't feel anything. It's like, well, you did go down twice, so you can't, So he does come out with some silly comments. And there's one thing he was saying, and Shelley Finkel like whispered in his ear. That was odd. But Fury was doing his normal thing, calling him a shit house and stuff.
Yeah.
Which I just find hilarious. I found it odd how they weren't going to do a head-to-head. Bob Arum didn't want them to do one, and I thought that was strange. I mean, yes, it was heated, but it wasn't. I've seen it worse, and people being able to do a head-to-head.
Yeah.
I hope they get to do one after the weigh-in. Bob Arum's just been going off on one, hasn't he? He's been shouting at. He was getting mad with the. I can't remember her name now. She's British, but the DAZN presenter.
Yeah.
He's on Sky Sports. Flipping at her because apparently, well, that was the thing. It was agreed that there'd be no head-to-head. So that's the thing. He said something like, "Well, you can't have a head-to-head with them two being, talking trash like that." But he then said that it'd been agreed there's no head-to-head. Why?
Yeah, well, then she was then told by the broadcaster that they want to do a head-to-head, which is just following directions. It's not really her fault.
But Arum had said it had already been pre-agreed that there was no head-to-head.
Yeah, I don't know.
But like, why would you? And even Fury's like, what? Why not? Why not, Bob? Why not, Bob? And then Hearn went over and like whispered something to him. So I don't know what the deal is. So yeah, it doesn't seem our predictions are changing. But I am quite getting up for this fight in a weird way. I feel I'm more excited about this fight than the Joshua fight. I don't know why.
It's a bigger fight, isn't it? I think.
It probably is, and I feel that there's with Joshua Usyk. I don't know. This one feels a bit more unpredictable, just because of the characters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's genuine animosity. There's one, but you kind of have to say it's number one against. You can't really say number two anymore, but it is the number one heavyweight, and whoever wins this, you'd have to say is number one, consensus number one in the world at the moment at heavyweight.
Yeah. Obviously, we need to go into news about White looking like he's going to the winner of White and Wallin is going to be the mandatory.
Yeah, we talked about this briefly last week, didn't we? Saying that it could potentially be. It looks like it's going to happen, and obviously there's more reports that is going to be the case. I just hope that they. Yeah, I think he said it in an interview. He does a lot of interviews, doesn't he, for somebody who's ahead of a governing body. Yeah,
he loves it. But he has said something like they've got 30 days the winner's got 30 days to negotiate the undisputed, and then it will be right. You've got to fight the winner of Wallings and
Wallin versus White.
Yeah.
White, but the undisputed is not going to happen. That's already off the table, isn't it?
Yeah, basically. But I think Bob's been on the phone to Hearn, or Hearn said he had, saying, would he take step aside? And it's like, nah. It's weird, like to someone like Joshua, step aside. What's the step aside money for something like that? 10, 20 million. Not that. It's not a great deal for Joshua, that. You know what I mean? In terms of money and that he basically waived his, I mean, they may say, if you let us do the undisputed, we'll contract it where you have a shot at it. But then the belts will get fragmented.
Yeah. And it's not good. The optics are very poor on AJ if he does do that. I actually think it's a pretty sensible thing to do, to maybe take a not an easy touch, but a warm-up fight, and then just fight the winner of Usyk Fury. I actually think it's a fairly sensible move. Maybe work on a few things.
Yeah, but the problem you've got is the belts will become fragmented. I mean, even if Joshua beats Usyk and White or Fury fight, and whoever wins there, IBF are going to become knocking, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Next year.
So,
I think first half of next year they will come knocking, actually.
Well, I don't know because Hrgovic can't get a decent fight, and isn't he number one? So maybe IBF won't. But they'll be putting pressure on the WBO. Bricktop and Co will be putting pressure on the WBO for Joyce. So
yeah.
Just on that, actually, I know we're breaking to the news, but it looks like Joyce might be given the gold medal.
Yeah, I heard about that. I haven't heard anything more since. Has there been any more developments on that then? What's happened?
Just that it's been proven that there's been some corruption, and that was one of the fights. And Joyce has said, "Well, I'm assuming then I'll be given the gold medal."
Really? Mm. So it'll be taken off of Yoka then?
Yeah. I don't know if he goes to silver or what, but I mean, there's nothing's official, but interesting. I know we're going to wrap up, but final bit of news is Teofimo, Kambosos. We haven't got a date, but we think November on Matchroom.
Yeah.
DAZN.
Yeah, it's a massive win for DAZN, that is, and that really kind of bolsters their schedule for the rest of this year, getting that fight. I think Teofimo Lopez isn't really up for grabs. He's got a long-term contract with Top Rank, but it's an opportunity for Matchroom to go on the charm offensive and say, look at what you could have, and then it kind of puts pressure on Top Rank to say, right, got a great payday, amazing experience. What can you offer me over the next couple of years? I still think Teofimo wins that fight comfortably. I haven't really seen anything from Kambosos that troubles Teofimo Lopez.
We'll have to do I think we've done predictions of that already, but we'll have to kind of re-look at it. But yeah, I saw Bob Arum flipping at Coppinger on an interview. That was quite funny. He's flipping at everyone at the moment.
Yeah, I think he's just under a lot of pressure, isn't he?
I think, like Eddie Hearn says, he just doesn't give a shit anymore. He's got to the age now where he's probably got, what was he, nearly 90? He's not got long left, not in the sport, just in life. So he's probably just like, well, I don't care now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting. And yeah, it looks like, because I think Haney's fight's going to get announced soon. So, and Andrade's, that's been announced, isn't it?
Demetrius Andrade is fighting in November against Jason Quigley. And
so
then
I think they've got
Ryan Garcia, I think, is going to announce as well. And that's on DAZN.
I think they're going to have 3 or 4 fights by the end of the year in the US. And then obviously they've got some of the fights here in the UK.
Yeah.
So DAZN schedule stepping up.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
Price tied as well.
Yes, pricey. Yeah, I think it was on the cards, wasn't it? To be honest, I think I'd heard that he was gonna knock it on the head. Probably just as well, but what an amazing. He's kind of a bit of an underachiever, I think. Really, I remember when he was kind of coming through the ranks and got some really, he had some really exciting performances and knocking people out. I mean, what a devastating puncher, but he just didn't really seem to have it mentally. I think there was something in his kind of
underachiever physically. I think maybe not overall. I mean, you've got to have that mental strength, especially in boxing. It's kind of and the chin as well. He just seemed to have and the engine just seemed to have a. I mean, I do think it's almost like Joshua's got that, a very small hint of that in him, where it's not I think. Not great getting hit and tenses up, and it's just an energy killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I think it's not as bad as it used to be, or I thought it was, because he has shown that he can get through. But I mean, that he was knackered at the end of the last fight, but that was a fast-paced fight.
Yeah.
He's got a very small element of it. But yeah, I think COVID's finished his career in a sense. I think he would have, without COVID, he would have probably gone on. He probably would have. had one or two low level fights again, and then stepped up bigger and got cleaned out again.
Yeah.
You know, so
he definitely reached his level.
He's probably made a good, you know, not the Dillian White level of money, but he's probably made decent money enough to, because I think he's going to go back, you know, working on bricklaying and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, he mentioned in a past interview he'd been doing that like over COVID a little bit, but I think it's one of those where he just wants to do something, because he's not huge. He's articulate, but he's not probably great for. He's not going to be a presenter or a commentator.
Pundit, no.
Maybe they might draft him in on the odd one, or you know, I don't know, but you know, I hope boxing look after him in a sense, though. You know, that they do offer. There's jobs in boxing for him, or you know, because at one stage he was kind of our shining star.
Yeah. Yeah, well, him and Fury were kind of coming through. They were kind of rivals, weren't they? I know they're very good. They're very pally now. I think David Price beat Tyson Fury in the amateurs. So, you know, his boxing.
I think he got the Olympic spot, didn't he, from beating him or something?
Something like that, yeah. But yeah, there we are.
Okay.
All right, cool. Let's do we'll do a review for the big one, and we'll go over our predictions. We've got four in the mix, so we'll do a video on Sunday night. All right.